If you're struggling to remove blockages in your heart, I'm going to share with you some things that have helped me along my journey. I'm working on my own stuff. What I've come to learn is that when you trust someone, they put arsenic in your drink, try to kill you, you tend to put up a couple blocks around your heart. Who would have thought, eh? When I look back to 2014 compared to where I am now, it's night and day. So I have removed many blockages in my heart, and a lot of it had to do with accepting my shadow, the ugly aspects of myself. I recently came across some dude that was screaming on the camera, talking about how he couldn't stand this life anymore and how he didn't want to be alive, and I was just like, well, who does that sound like back in 2014, 2020, And I was just like, okay, I'm going to share with you guys some of the things that have helped me along my journey. So number one, you're struggling with a blockage in your heart. It always begins with learn to be more compassionate with yourself. A lot of times when we're struggling with something, we're being too hard on ourselves. The next thing is you have to identify the belief you're believing that's creating the blockage and keeping that blockage in your heart. You either have to make amends with it or come up with a different perspective. When I first started to wake up and learn about the law of attraction, and I would hear things like you have to give gratitude for this life that you were given in order to receive abundance, I was like thinking about how close I came to ending my life and the life that I lived, and I was like, what kind of narcissistic f-hole reality is this, right? And as long as I had that belief, I was at odds with myself, because I was like, well, that's not very spiritual, that's not very namaste. I have to silence that aspect of myself, I have to shoo it away. And it wasn't until I sat with it and I was like, you know what, wait a second. This is an aspect of me that was created through the ish that I've been through in my life, and it has valid points. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what, okay, yeah, you bring up some good points. I understand why you feel this way. Once I accepted that aspect of myself, it wasn't such a negative force in my life. Like when I accepted the fact that I didn't want to give gratitude for this life that I was given, and I learned to love that aspect of myself, that resentment and that discord kind of went away, to the point where it was actually a lot easier to start giving gratitude for things in my life. So not only do you have to find the beliefs you're believing that are keeping these things blocked within you, you have to learn to accept your shadow. For me, I had a visitation from the soul of Jesus on October 20th, 2020. And I started to remember being a soul before I incarnated here, not just past lives, but like actually being a soul going through the cosmos. And I remember talking to my guides and angels, telling them about how this life path they created for me was a bad idea. And when I started to think about how close I came to ending my life and how I was telling them, shouldn't be doing this, and they're like, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. And then I started hearing about how if you go through a lot of ish and you end up opening up your heart, your highest guide is, extremely, let's just say rewarded. And when I thought about my highest guide being rewarded, I basically, I did some pretty gnarly things. Let's just say, if you've been following me for a while, you know what's up. But I did some pretty gnarly things that ended up having me, pulling out my angelic sword in the etheric realm and placing it in between his eyes. So it got pretty intense, but I sat with this for quite a while afterwards, and I was like, oh, you can't be all love and light, namaste, when you did that, this and that. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what? This is a part of me that feels this way. I felt betrayed by my highest guide. Some of the shit I've been through, I've seen some of the incompetence. I've had conversations with Archangel Michael, and I was like, you know what? This aspect of myself brought up some good points, and so it may not be all accepted and love and light, namaste, but this is an aspect of me. And when you learn to love those unlovable parts of you, you won't be at odds with yourself. Now, a lot of times when it comes to heart blockages, it has to do with a belief. Like, oh, I'm not worthy of love, or I'm never gonna find that person. Learn to love your shadow, be easier on yourself, identify those lies you're telling yourself, and that should help you remove a lot of blockages in your heart. That's all I got. If you appreciate this content, want to see more, hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.